everyone. Welcome back to the What Should You Do podcast. My name is Ellie. I have Alex here, my co-host, and then Seth today on the pod. So Seth is a law enforcement professional with nearly 10 years of experience, including 4 years as a detective and 3 years investigating crimes against children through the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. He also served as a patrol supervisor, field training officer, and honor guard member. As a father of 2 daughters, his work became deeply personal. And now Seth is driven to educate parents and raise awareness about the real risks kids face today, as well as help families navigate an increasingly complex world so that more children can stay safe. So thanks, Seth, for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So first and foremost, tell us how you got into law enforcement.
You know, most people say they came from like a law enforcement family or something like that. I don't believe I had anybody, like even in extended families, that was in law enforcement. It was just something that I grew up. I liked watching cops all the time growing up. It was just very interesting. And I didn't want to work in the little town. I grew up in Oklahoma, just had a fear of being bored. And so moved to Texas, got hired on to a police department here, and they put me through the academy. That was great, like to be sponsored through it. I didn't have to pay for anything. I got paid while going through the academy. It was great. But yeah, I've enjoyed it so far. Hopefully I got a lot more left in me.
Love that. And then, so you transitioned into being a detective, and that's a little bit of a process, I think, from probably going from, I don't know if it's more like you go from street work, and then do you have to like apply to become a detective? For people that are listening and maybe don't know about that process, but it's something that they're interested in pursuing. Can you kind of explain how that kind of works?
Yeah, so I get a lot of people asking me how I became a detective. And so I'm always like, it took a little bit of time working on the street. It would be great, I guess, if you could maybe just jump into a detective position, but working patrol is where you get your foundation for doing interviews and just having contact with the public whenever they're going through crisis and stuff. So I did my time on patrol, a little over 6 years on the street there. And then from there, a spot came open into our criminal investigations division, and I applied for it and had to do interviews and testing and all these different things. And luckily I ended up getting it. But once I got into the criminal investigations division, I'm just going to refer to it as CID. Once I got into CID, kind of just investigated general things. If there was a burglary, I would investigate that. Sexual assault of a child or an adult, pretty much just anything in general. I would take it and I would investigate it. But then I started going to more training classes geared toward crimes against children. Loved that. That was very interesting. I was given the opportunity to take over those cases. Here I am.
That's amazing. I feel like it takes such a special person to work crimes against children cases. Like, it's really hard material, obviously, to have to be investigating, and you're dealing with some of the worst humans that exist in the world, I feel like.
For sure.
Like, I remember when I worked in the FBI, we had our VCAC squad that was like a squad bay away from us, and I was like, how do you guys like go out and arrest these people? And they're like so calm and maintain your composure. And the one agent was like, because if I can get them to confess to me, then I don't have to make a child go on the stand and testify to what happened. And that's like the one thing that helps me always maintain my composure when I'm like dealing with these people, like these types of people.
Yeah. If you let your emotion and stuff get in the way, then I feel like we do a disservice to the kids who we're trying to help. So
yeah. And then do you have like psychiatrists that go out with you guys, or like victim specialists or things like that help the children that are victims of these situations?
So we use like our local children's advocacy center. Like we've got at least one CAC in pretty much every county. And so like depending on which county I'm working out of, if I have a child victim, we'll take them over there, and they do. Are you familiar with forensic interviews?
Yes.
Yeah. So
to some degree.
Yeah. So like if we have a child victim, we'll take them to the CAC. They will interview. I don't conduct those interviews. I observe out of the room, like either through a camera or like a little two-way mirror. And basically they get to sit in a room with, some people say it's almost like a therapy session, but the interviewer goes in completely blind most of the time. Sometimes they want a little more information, but most of the time they go in there and they just figure out how that kid answers questions, and if they can distinguish the difference between like a truth and a lie. And then once they've established that this kid knows the difference between right and wrong, they will ask them about their day and then kind of go back and ask questions about their day to let the kid know how they ask questions in the interview. And then from there,
Okay.
they will usually ask like, hey, do you know why you came here today or what you came to talk about? And the kid most of the time will say, yeah, because of this situation, or they may say they don't know. And if they say they don't know, they start asking about different types of touches to their bodies, if anybody's ever done anything like that, and gives the kid an opportunity to make an outcry. After that's all over with, all of that is evidence for me to use back in my case, but also for the kids. It's free therapy sessions. Like until they are good to go, they get to come back and they get to go through therapy sessions, and it's all free. So it's a really cool thing. So while they don't come out onto the field with me whenever something initially comes out, if something is going on that needs therapy, then I will go ahead and schedule that to the CAC and transport them, or have a family member transport them to the CAC.
Is there a degree of crimes against children, or is it pretty black and white, or like can you define like what types of crimes you may see? Put more context on why these
Yeah.
things are there.
So like the crimes that I see typically, is that what you're saying, Alex?
Yeah, crimes that you see, or trends that you're seeing, or just like what constitutes really a crime against a child.
So what I typically see, I don't see a whole lot of like physical abuse cases. Every now and then I'll get a physical abuse case, but most of it is sexual abuse. And, there's different degrees of those offenses. They're all felony offenses, but here in the state of Texas, we have all the way from capital felony to state jail felony. But most of your child sex offenses will be first or second degree offenses. But I see a lot of like hands-on, like touching of kids, which is indecency with a child, whether it's touching through the clothes, under the clothes, anything like that. It'll still fit as long as they're being touched on like their breast or genital area, something like that. But we see a lot of sextortion where kids will be on Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. And then they'll get a message saying, hey, would you like to talk? And then they'll switch over to, most of the time it goes to Snapchat. They'll start talking on Snapchat or TikTok or something like that. Typically it's a boy victim between the age of 12 to 17 years old. They'll start talking because they think they're talking to a girl. Suspect will send pictures of themselves, like just selfies that they more than likely have probably just gotten from other victims. And then from there, they'll say, hey, do you want to play a game where we exchange nudes? We just won't tell anybody. And most of these teenage boys, their hormones are all over the place. And so they just go for it. And as soon as they send a picture of themselves, like a nude photo, it's horrible for them, because that's within probably 30 seconds of receiving that photo, they're being extorted for money, and in the form mostly of like gift cards. And it's weird. It's like, go to the store and get a gift card, an Apple gift card, and give me the number off the back. So I feel like that's one of our big things that we see almost constantly.
If the extortion is ongoing, or is it like a one-time thing?
No, it'll keep going. I actually just had somebody reach out to me on TikTok and say that I believe they're 19 now, and it's been going on since they were 15. And so
Wow.
it's insane. Like, I always tell people, just report it to the police department. Don't pay any money, because even after you pay the money, they're still going to ask for more money.
And I guess what they kind of dangle over the kids is like they'll release the photos, they'll tell their parents, like what is the motivator to then like pay the money, or like what are they telling the kids that they'll do if they don't pay them in the gift cards or give them money or do whatever?
Yeah. So once they receive that photo of the kid nude, they will make it into like a poster, and then they start to send it to all of their friends on Instagram or on Snapchat or TikTok, or send it to the school admin, because they'll figure out where the kid goes to school at. Then they'll actually screenshot all their friends lists, their principal information, all of this stuff, and say, if you don't send me the money, I'm going to send this out to everybody you love, everybody you know, everybody's going to have this picture of you. That's a lot. I mean, for a 12-year-old, like I said, all the way up to 17, and it goes even past that age, but that's a typical age range. That's a lot for kids to have to stress about. And unfortunately, a lot of kids, they don't know how to handle it, and so they just kill themselves. So it's horrible.
Do you see that the person doing this actually follows through? Should the child not provide payment, like they will actually release it? Have you seen those cases?
I have seen it. I feel like more often than not, it doesn't get released, but I have seen it where it has been released. So the best bet is always just to not pay it, because if they're going to release it, they're going to release it no matter what. Because at some point you're going to run out of money. They're just going to keep asking for money. And then there's always a chance that they don't release it, because then they can also be caught for possession of child pornography and stuff like that as well. Most of these people, they don't reside in the United States. They're around Nigeria, like the Ivory Coast area, stuff like that.
Are there any
Got it.
guardrails that Snapchat has that you know of, or that, helps work with law enforcement to identify these situations?
So all of these platforms are mandated to report whenever there's like online enticement or like a sextortion situation going on. They have to report to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And so typically in that report, they will have the pictures or videos that the victim sent, along with like the messaging that where the person was sextorting them. But then sometimes they will put like the account information in there. And sometimes they just put like the screen name. But if they put the account user information in there, then, I mean, it gives us a little more to work with. We can try and find them. But like I said, most of the time that comes back somewhere overseas.
Do you work with like foreign law enforcement officials if it is someone that's overseas, or with like at the federal level at like the embassies and consulates overseas whenever some of these things pop up and the person isn't actually living in the US?
I personally have not had any contact. Well, I've had contacts with some officials like in Germany and stuff like that, but it wasn't specifically for sextortion stuff. It was more for child pornography, and that's just for them to help me get some information on the subject. But whenever it comes to the sextortion side, personally, I've not had any contact with anybody in the foreign countries or anything for like in purpose of identifying them or serving whatever on them. No. I know it's happened. I just haven't.
I could see when there's sensitive activities going on or sensitive operations, usually that inevitably requires a long bureaucratic or administrative process or barrier or things that just can cause friction or frustration. And so the question for you is, what's the biggest frustration in this field for a law enforcement officer?
Let's see. Sometimes,
besides just hating the criminals.
yeah. I would say some of like the legal process, it can take forever, it feels like, especially if it's not like an ICAC subpoena. Like an ICAC subpoena, I can send out myself and companies will typically respond pretty quick. But I hate it like whenever I get a hold of a company and they just don't respond to me at all. Like I will send out a search warrant or a subpoena and I never hear anything back. And it's like, what do you do in this situation? You kind of just run into a dead end and start trying to approach it from a different angle. Applying for search warrant, subpoenas, all those things, because even like a search warrant, they have 15 days. And so it's like, I'm hot on the trail of something, and then it's going to take at least 15 days before I get something back most of the time. So that kind of sucks. Overall, I don't know, technology, it's just stuff, man. Like hard drives, I hate dealing with people's hard drives sometimes because they like to lock them down and it takes forever to get into them. But, it's all part of it, I guess.
And I guess for anyone that's listening, or for parents who are listening, that maybe this is happening to them, or they're aware that it's happening to their kids and they don't know how to go about, like the steps to take to, report it. Who do they report it to? Are there multiple people they report it to? Do they, take screenshots and gather as much information? What do those steps kind of look like for people that might be experiencing this right now and are afraid to tell someone, or, they just have told their parents, but they're also trying to figure out what the best course of action now is?
Yeah. So I always tell people, like, if they're embarrassed and they don't want to talk to somebody, they can always submit an online tip to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Ultimately, that's going to end up in the jurisdiction that it's happening in. So, like if they just don't want to talk to somebody in person, they can always just do it online. But it's whether we're able to identify the person or not, it's always worth a shot. I always encourage people, hey, call me or call the police department if something is going on. If that photo is out there, NCMEC has another thing on their site. It's called Take It Down, where if they have that original photo that they had sent to the person, to the suspect, they can actually upload it on there. And I know some people are uncomfortable with that. Like, well, now I'm putting it on somewhere else. But the goal of that is to find like that same metadata, the hash, all this stuff, and find it online. And so it can be taken offline. So it's actually pretty neat. But yeah, screenshots, like you said something about taking screenshots. I think that's not a bad idea as long as they leave it on the device. Like if it's on your kid's device, I would say you can screenshot it, but leave it on there. Don't send it to somebody else. Like don't try and send it to yourself, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, because that does then constitute as sending.
Yeah. Yeah. I would hate for somebody to, yeah, summer party or whatever, try and say, well, what about this? This person sent this to themselves. Like, all right, we're not playing that game.
Yeah, don't do that. No, that's fair. And for parents too, I think a lot of times kids are afraid to tell their parents, might be uncomfortable to tell their parents. Are there certain things parents can maybe look for that they notice like a different change in behavior in their kid? Maybe, purposely hiding their phone, not bringing their phone around, they seem depressed, they seem stressed. Are there like common things that you've seen that are good indicators for parents to pay attention to?
Yeah, it's like all of those things you just said there. Like if they're on their phone a whole lot.
Here's the answer in the question.
Yeah, for real. Like, man, that's impressive. So like if they're on their phone a whole lot, or if they're very secretive with their phone, or you find out they have two different phones, that's always a big red flag. But yeah, the depression side of it is a big thing. Grades dropping, all of this different stuff, behavior changes, and sometimes even the way they change, like their style is different, to reflect more like they're more, I don't know, I hate to be like cliche, like you would see in a movie where everybody just starts wearing black hoodies and pants and all this different stuff, but like, they stop taking care of themselves. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people though, and that's one of the big things is the kids will just stop showing enjoyment in stuff that they typically thoroughly enjoyed, like playing sports or going to practice or doing all these different things, playing on video games, where they'll just be like, well, they just seem very secluded. Their grades have dropped, all these different things.
You touched on video games, and I think there's a lot of threats, and that's kind of an avenue for predators to engage with kids. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on like Roblox and Minecraft and the 764 organization.
Yeah, so Roblox drives me nuts. I'm surprised they haven't sent me something to tell me to quit talking about them. All the kids in my town, like all my daughter's kids, all play Roblox. And I told all their parents, I'm like, hey, it's dangerous. I know you think you've set up some parental controls and whatever, but if it were that easy, we wouldn't have that many victims on Roblox. But there's over 50,000 games inside of one game because you can basically just create your own little game inside there. And so, like, what is there stopping adults from talking to your kids on there? Because I don't think most parents really care about. They're like, oh, it's just Roblox. They're going to have fun. They're going to be fine. I don't think they watch what their kid's doing on there, who they're talking to. And I don't think the majority of like the exploitation of kids happens on there. I think it starts there and then it switches over to like Telegram or Snapchat or something like that, where parents can't really see it. Or have you heard of Sessions? There's an app called Sessions. It's basically you have to send, like, the person who has the chat, who created the chat, has to send a code to this person. It's a unique code. Nobody else can get into it. And in there, you can even set it to where after you read it, it deletes, or within 24 hours, it will delete everything. So it's very secretive. But parents don't know about that stuff. And these kids don't know what it is until they get into it. And then by that time, it's too late most of the time. So whenever it comes down to it, video games and kids, I grew up playing like Xbox, playing Call of Duty and all these little things, trash talking people online. But it's like, times have changed. So
yeah, no, that's a really good point. Is there technology that exists out there that parents can use that, does give at least a little bit more control or visibility into some of the things that their kids are doing on their phones? And I know that this is kind of like a hot topic because some parents are like, I trust my kids. I don't want to feel like, I'm invading their privacy and things like that. So I guess if there's like from least invasive to most invasive, what that looks like and what parents' options are.
Yeah, I would say like the least invasive is just checking the phone or device, whatever, just kind of randomly. I wouldn't say like every Monday or every Tuesday, I'm going to check my kid's phone, because then they're going to start deleting stuff. But for me, I use Bark. Like that's the thing that has worked for me. It worked for me before I ever had TikTok, before anything like that. And it's worked for people I work with. Other detectives that they've used it. And that's actually how I came across it. Was one of my best friends told me, hey, this is what we used for our kid whenever he was a teen. it worked really well. But it's stuff like, I think a lot of people do say, well, I don't want to invade my child's privacy, but I personally don't agree with that because like, they don't have privacy. Yeah, to an extent, but like whenever it comes to a grown man talking to him about sex, yeah, that's gone. I'm going to make sure that's not happening. And if it is, I'm going to put a stop to it. But that's where like
Yeah.
parental controls, depending on whatever people want to use, like I said, I use Bark, but parental controls, if they work correctly, you don't get to read just all of your kids' messages. It's just basically the way it works is like machine learning, and it picks up the way things are said, patterns, like dangerous patterns. Like it can pick up like grooming language, right? Grooming language, suicidal ideations, stuff like that. And it can tell a difference between, like say, hey, I need a knife to spread this jelly versus I wish I had a knife to cut myself. It will flag that side, but it won't flag the jelly side because, it just knows that that's not in a harmful way. But that's where I think a lot of parents get caught up. Like, well, I don't want to read everything my kid sends. Like, you don't have to, but I would want to read the things where my kid's talking about how they feel depressed or upset, or if somebody's trying to talk to them about sex or drugs or something like that. But parental controls, I think that can save a lot of people a lot of heartache.
Definitely. And then you do have a TikTok channel that you've grown, and you give a lot of advice to parents on kind of how to keep their kids safe, especially in this crazy online world that is like ever evolving and changing, and bad people will always find ways to do bad things, unfortunately. And so can you kind of talk about your channel and the things you talk about on there and how people can find you?
Yeah. So, actually just started an Instagram as well, but it's still the same name as my TikTok. It's the
Ooh.
Texas Detective. Yeah, I was like, let me expand my options here a little bit and see if I can reach more people. So over there, I just started that maybe 2 weeks ago, but then TikTok I've been on for just a little over a year. And the whole point of starting a TikTok, from the whole, like everything leading up to it, I told my wife, I told people at work that, hey, this is what I want to do, because even if I hit 10,000 followers, I just want to talk about what children have to go through, because I feel like nobody really talks about it. And it drives me nuts because, like, if I were blessed enough to be a professional athlete, I would like to use that platform because you've got millions of people who look up to you and who listen to what you have to say, but I just don't really hear them. I do hear Tim Tebow talk about it, and that's great. But aside from Tim Tebow, I don't really hear a lot of advocating for children. So that was the whole reason for starting up the TikTok. Like, if you go back to some of my first videos, it's some cringy little, like, here's how you make this high protein meal or whatever. Right. I was trying to build a little bit of a foundation, because whenever I first started and I would post anything about child sex abuse or anything, no engagement. Like, people, I know it was a small account and people maybe just didn't see it, but also if people did see it, they just weren't engaging with it. So I was like, let me get a little more credibility to my name, let me get some more followers here, and then maybe people will start enjoying what I have to say. And since then, I get, oh my goodness, I don't know, there was a period there where I felt like I was probably getting 500 or 600 messages every day. And then, like, I felt bad because I wasn't able to read all of them. But I would respond to the ones that looked like they were like somebody asking for help for something. But then I get people to email me stuff. So it's been cool. Like, a lot of them are victims of child sex abuse who said they felt like they never had a voice growing up. Yeah, that's cool. Even if I'm not able to help them now, at least talking about kind of what they went through. And I've even had some of them ask if I could use their kind of situation to bring awareness to what goes on to kids as well. But I talk a lot about, I just made a video yesterday about a police officer at a school district who was arrested for sexually abusing kids, or at least one kid, but he was charged for 4 different things. And so it's like, the point of that is to show people, like, not everybody is a good person, and you can't really trust anybody around your kids. So
that's also, so I grew up a gymnast my whole life, and I had a lot of friends and college teammates and people that were impacted by the Larry Nassar scandal that occurred. Gymnastics during like pre-safe sport was just horrific for like child sex abuse, unfortunately. And there were no protections really for what girls were going through at that time. So I do think and I'm curious to get your opinions. Like, do you think that, one, the Larry Nassar situation has caused like a larger shift in protecting children, and especially in like athletics and things of that nature, because it was so, like on the main stage? and what kind of now do you see that's maybe being put into place that's not so much online, but also just like in people's day to day that is maybe working to try to keep children safer and alert parents when things are happening so that like offenders aren't just repeating and having multiple victims over long periods of time.
Yeah, I would say like having like that Larry Nassar thing, right? It was a big deal, and I think it opened a lot of people's eyes to realize that you can't trust your kids to be safe around people that you thought you could, right? Like, he's a big name gymnast, like in the gymnastics world, but then it's like
the Olympic doctor.
Yeah, it's like, so you can't even trust somebody that's that high of a status. Why could you just go trust the guy that's right down the street that you've been taking your kid to all of this time, right? Mostly because I think there's just a different level of professionalism there that it's like, I think people hold professionals to a higher standard than just the random person. So it's like, to me, it's like, it's not just gymnastics, but it could be, this is, I guess, kind of off topic a little bit, but like softball, t-ball coaches and stuff like that. People don't think of them because why would they ever do that? Why would their kid ever be in that position? They've known this person for years, but a lot of these people, they don't realize the predators put themselves in a position where they have access to females in gymnastics, right? Or they have access to little kids in t-ball because it doesn't look suspicious. And they know how to manipulate that time. And not only the kids, but also the parents, because like, oh, this coach is so kind. This coach is really close with my kid, and that's how they see it. Whereas, like, no, the coach is grooming your kid, or that coach is grooming these gymnasts. It's almost like a wild game of psychology, like psychological manipulation. But it's crazy to think that some people are that good at it that they can cover it up. Whereas if somebody stepped out and looked at it from a different angle, they'd be like, this is a red flag. But stuff that I feel like, aside from parents just really trying to educate themselves on how often it actually happens and just reading statistics and researches, just even if you look at them by state, it's crazy to be like, oh, I think it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I was in Utah, and I remember just thinking, I'm like, oh, this is a nice place. It's beautiful. It's very, like, seems like a slow place, like slow-paced living. But then I started looking up the statistics for child sex abuse in the state of Utah. And, it says most of it's committed by family members or friends or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, things that are in place to help parents be aware of what's going on, I don't really know, honestly, aside from if a parent takes it upon themselves to try and educate their family on how often this stuff does happen and teaching kids about safe touches and unsafe touches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes parents are afraid to maybe talk about that topic with their kids because it's, one, uncomfortable. I understand that. But like, and I don't have kids yet, neither does Alex, so we haven't had to cross this bridge just yet in our lives. But I do feel like maybe sometimes they don't know how to go about maybe having those discussions, or they feel like uncomfortable having those discussions early on. And so are there any like resources out there that parents can tap into that kind of walks them through, you know, depending on how old your kid is, how you can maybe go about having those conversations so that they understand it in a way that makes sense to them but isn't maybe going so far into the weeds to a place that a parent isn't comfortable with?
Sure. So I'll refer back to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have you ever heard of NetSmarts? It's basically like a series of videos. It can range all the way from small children to adults, just talking about how exploitation happens and what to do if something's happening, or how to recognize like grooming and all these different things. So it's like, if a parent doesn't want to have that conversation with their kid because it might feel a little awkward or they're not exactly sure how to do it, they can always go to the NetSmarts through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I don't have a problem talking to my kids about these things, but I've heard a lot of families in some classes and stuff that I've been to and then actually instructed some stuff that they have used that, and it's been very helpful for them because it's obviously like the little kid side of it's animated little characters and just kind of meant to, I guess, plant a seed of knowledge there from a young age.
One thing I was thinking about while you were saying that is we think about you don't really know who your child is going to engage with and stuff, but I was thinking like the responsibilities of the parents. And have you seen any instances of AI generated content using like the likeness of a child's photograph? So I think if I have kids and I post their photos on Instagram or Facebook, we're getting to a point in technology where somebody could grab that picture of my child and create some kind of AI generated content of something pretty horrible, like sexual abuse happening, torture, whatever it is. And so I just wonder if you came across any of these cases now that we're getting to that point technologically.
Yeah, and that's I tell a lot of people to not post pictures of their kids. I'm not going to say not at all, because I know a lot of people, they just enjoy whatever, that's fine. But like specifically putting pictures of their kids in like swimsuits at the beach, stuff like that. Because I would almost be willing to bet in every ICAT case that I've done that there has been, and it's weird how it works, but like you're scrolling through their laptop or their phone or their hard drive, and you see a picture of a family at the beach. They're all in their swimsuits, whatever. And then you scroll over a little bit, and then you'll see a picture of that same little girl in a swimsuit, but it's just zoomed in on her. It's like, why does a 55-year-old man have this 5-year-old little girl in a swimsuit on his phone? Right? I know the reason. I'm sure y'all know the reason. But it's stuff like that. It's like, that's disgusting. I'm sure I didn't find the AI side of what he had done there, but I do know that it's being used a lot, just with all the access there is to AI, to take a simple photo like that and make a prompt to where it shows that kid doing one of the things like you listed there before. But even without AI, they still, and I've seen this, they'll take pictures of kids, print them out, and then cut their faces off the body, and then put them in like a pornographic setting and like glue it to that person's face. And it's like, even though that's obviously very fake, that's what does it for a lot of these people. It's just the thought and the fantasy of that being real. So even without AI generated things, they still just get a picture and put it on a piece of paper, or cover another girl's face with it.
Jeez.
I think that's also something that's so important that people that don't always think about. There was like a whole TikTok thread that happened once, or like a TikTok video series that happened once. And this person was creating a series of like, these parents had accounts where they were like showcasing their kid, and their daughters would do like get ready with me videos, and they're like this super cute little 6-year-old, 8-year-old girl, and she would try on all these really cute little outfits. And the ones that were like her getting ready to go to the beach with the family and doing like a little, like bathing suit get ready with me video, or if it was like an outfit that she had like a little like cute little crop top kind of vibe on or something like that. Yeah. They went through the likes of the people that did it, and it was old men, like significantly higher, liking the video, commenting on the video, engaging with the video. And I was like mortified. And I come from law enforcement where I know that people do things and it's bad, but it's like, because I don't watch ever a video like that, obviously, and think of anything other than like, look how cute this like little 8-year-old that's like dancing around or doing whatever. And other people are looking at that in a completely different light, and it's meant to be something so innocent. And the mother deleted the entire account like after that came out. But I think, to like your point earlier, like just posting your kid and doing things like that, like you said, the beach, or going to gymnastics and she's in a cute little leotard and things like that. There are people on the internet that aren't looking at that picture innocently, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I hate that that's the way it is, but I bet if you went and you looked at that video, if it were still up, it probably had more saves, like saved or favorites, than any of the other ones.
So many. It was appalling.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It still like gives me the ick thinking about it.
It's crazy that people do that on attributed accounts too.
Yeah. But there's such a thing, because it's not illegal, right, for them to see that content because the parent posted it or whatever. But like, even in these people's videos or pictures that they have in their hard drives, you'll see like girls in gymnastics wear or whatever. They'll start out in that, and then it's like a progression of photos, and then ultimately they just end up, it's little girls nude, but they all start out in these more revealing type of outfits that typically you would think, oh, it's just an everyday like girl going to a gymnastics thing. But when you see it and it's a professional photo shoot, and then you just progress further, you're like, that's just, for that to be your starting point, that already goes and shows people, there's a lot of people who have this weird fantasy about little kids wearing the same type of thing. So it's horrible. I hate it, but I don't know. Aside from trying to make parents aware of what's going on, I don't really know a way to really stop it. in total, right? Because people are like, well, it should just be as simple as just shutting down those websites. But like, we shut down that website and then in no time it's back up. Yeah, it's back up with a different domain or whatever. So it's, I don't know, a lot of it that I feel like we see is not really just from the US. I know the US is a big consumer of child pornography, but most of it is generated in like Asian places or whatever, just foreign countries, you know. But I don't know, people are nasty.
I feel like it's gross. A blessing and a curse to know what you know and be a father of 2 little girls.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to make it very difficult for somebody to take advantage of my kids.
Yeah, good. With kind of what I want to leave our viewers with, and I always like to leave an open-ended question for, you know, whoever's on to kind of end things with whatever they want as like a final, what do you want the viewers to know before you head out? You know, what do you want to leave them with, I guess you could say?
What I would want to leave them with is that, here's a good one, I think. If you take your kid to practice, whether it's pitching lessons, soccer lessons, whatever, piano lessons, whatever, any type of practice lesson, whatever, stay there with them. You know, be involved with that lesson. Don't give somebody the opportunity to have unsupervised access to your kid. Cause I feel like that's where we see a lot of it happen at. And it's just that trust factor. But I feel like that's a big one. Like me personally, even if, I don't know, I can't say if I wasn't doing what I do, but it's just a natural thing. Like if I take my kid to pitching lessons, I'm in there with her the entire time. Same thing with just softball practice in general. They're never just alone with somebody without me there, you know, unless they're at school or something. I can't really help that. But if I have a choice, my kids are not by themselves. So I would just say take the time that you have with your kids and be present. That's the biggest thing. And I feel like a lot of like teen depression comes from the parents not being present. And that comes from feedback that I get from kids. Like, yeah, they just give me this tablet and nobody really cares about what I do. So be there for your kids. I know it's fun to scroll through TikTok and watch my videos, but it's just, you know, spend a little more time with your...
Do both.
Yeah. Spend more time. Yeah, go over it with your kids. You and your kids can sit there and watch some videos together. There we go. Good
yeah,
thinking.
You guys scroll through them together.
yeah. That's team bonding or family bonding. So, but I feel like that's the most important thing is having a family aspect and being together.
I do have one final question for you. I'm sorry, but this is like, I've been actually thinking about this a while and then I'll forget it. Do you let your kids do sleepovers with friends?
No, we almost did. Man, and I hate to say this, but we almost did a couple weeks ago, but then it was cut short. I went and picked her up. I was like, I don't like it. So I just went and picked her up. But no, the answer is no. And I don't think we'll ever try it again. Maybe whenever she's older. And whenever I say older, like 17 years old or something, maybe.
Basically an adult.
Yeah. Yeah, where she can like... Yes.
Her own.
She got her own credit score, so yeah, she's fine. But no, at the age of 10, no. I don't think that's going to happen.
You just believe the risks are just too high. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I do. Because if you go look at statistics of child sex abuse, 93% of it is committed by somebody who knows that kid or somebody that the kid trusts or knows, right? So family members, family friends, something like that. 7% is committed by strangers, which is not, I mean, sure, you still worry about strangers, but that's not the biggest problem.
It's a terrifying statistic. I'm not going to lie.
I would rather drop you off at a house that I don't know.
Yeah, than have you sleep over anyone that we know.
Yeah,
it's
right.
A terrifying statistic, but
yeah, they've got a better odds of not.
Puts it into perspective.
Yeah, they got better odds of being safe with somebody you've never met in your life. So that's wild, but
that's crazy. Well, thank you so much, Seth, for hopping on today.
Thanks for having me.
This was a really great chat, and it's really important for people, especially parents, to know this information. I hope they learned something, but definitely follow the Texas Detective on TikTok and now on Instagram, because his videos are super educational and give you so much information and resources and technology that exists out there for parents and kids. I think it's great for them to know too, to keep them safe and to keep, your kids safe. So thanks again. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you again soon.
Yes, ma'am. Of course.
Thanks, Seth.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. See you guys.